But will never not be funny. I grew up Catholic, went to Mass every Sunday morning. One of the Eucharistic ministers with the wine had a habit of clinging on to the S in the blood of Christ, so you'd receive the bread from the priest, walk a few steps to the minister who would offer the wine and say the blood of Christ. That's no exaggeration, it was comically long, and one time me and my brother just lost it and I spat wine everywhere, being unable to hold back the laughter in front of 200 people. I think that's the closest my dad ever came to hitting me. My mom worked as admin for the church when I was a kid, and one Sunday there was a visit from another church and their choir gave us the most stunningly terrible rendition of the Lord's My Shepherd, I'll Not Want. Immediately after we had the Lord's Prayer, which my mom had typed up for everyone on these cute flyers that everyone could take home, the vicar was reading it directly from the flyer and we were following along. And both myself and my mom drifted ahead in the reading to see that my mom had misspelled sins, as in forgive us our sins, as sings. So it now said forgive us our sins right in the faces of the worst choir in South London. She cracked first, shoulder slightly shaking, hair over her face. But it spread quickly, and soon enough our entire row was wheezing and shaking and crying. When the vicar reached that line, he obviously realized what was going on and read forgive us our sins in a vaguely pointed way that made my mom do her world-famous snort, and from that point on it was over for us. Everything is 1,000 times funnier in Mass. I remember going to the funeral of a distant relative when I was a kid. The priest started talking about how my relative is now in heaven and knows no pain or suffering and blah blah blah. There was an old man sitting directly behind us and he just kept saying woo oh oh ooh at the end of the priest's every sentence. My sister and I made eye contact, and my mother gave us a look that would kill on sight and said, "Don't you dare." I honestly thought I was going to explode from holding in the laughter. Had to dig my nails into my arms to stop myself. I'm not religious, but I went to Scouts for a bit, and when I did church parade one time, this old lady started singing the national anthem so loudly that you couldn't hear anyone else at all, and she was singing out of tune as well. Me and my friend almost suffocated holding in our laughing, though I suppose you wouldn't have been able to hear us laughing over her singing anyway. The performance was so understated too. Roy in the wheelchair, and watching how he ended up in the wheelchair was so ridiculous, over the top and slapstick that you don't really notice the process of Moss ending up behind the bar, even though it's shown and parallels exactly what happened to Roy. So for Jen to interrogate Roy and get such insane answers, acid? And then turn around to a scene that is so superficially mundane, with such a calm, quiet delivery of that line, "Yes miss," I fucking lost it. When my wife and I first got married, we had a cat that would hop up on the bed, walk up my chest, turn around and stick his butt in my face a fart before I could react. He only did this to me, and I thought I was nice to this guy. I gave him cheese, cat treats, rubs and most anything else he wanted. Then he would just fart in my face every chance he got. That was so crazy that it wouldn't even fly in fiction whatsoever, only on something like The Office. There was a lot of dumb shit in 2020, but that was on a whole different level. It gets funnier the more I think about it with time. Exactly. Book the 4 seasons and do a press conference. Done, boss. The most hilarious part is that they didn't just cancel it, they said fuck it and did it there, looking like morons. And then the networks called the election for Biden right in the middle of their weird little charade, and every even halfway serious reporter just left. The fact that they even did the press conference is just them being idiots of epic proportions. That they more or less officially lost the election right that moment is hilarious on like a cosmic level, and definitely one of those if Veep would have done it, we'd have said they have jumped the shark moments that the last 5-6 years of US politics have had quite a few of. When Donald Trump was president, He most often gave press conferences at hotels, including his own. The Four Seasons is a famous and reasonably posh example. After some major thing, I can't remember at the moment, the Trump campaign announced to news outlets that the president and his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, would be giving a press conference at the Four Seasons. A short while later, the news outlets were contacted again to clarify that the conference would be held at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, a nowhere place, the type of place Trump wouldn't want to be caught dead in. The back lot of this tiny landscaping building is situated right between an adult video store and something else funny that I don't remember. So, there's several possibilities as to what happened. They said they were holding it at the Four Seasons but then were unable to secure a spot there, so were forced to change venues and pretend this was the plan all along, that whoever was in charge of setting up the conferences, people like to think it was Giuliani, called the wrong place and didn't realize, so they were forced to pretend this was the plan all along, that some staffer or assistant involved in the reservation process intentionally put a wrench in the gears. Regardless of specifics, it was clearly not the intended venue and it added a comedic twist to the generally dark mumblings of the president. Seriously, I cannot imagine being in that position and managing to just say yep, makes perfect sense that you'd call here for this sort of thing. Absolutely sir, we'll have everything set up for you and just go back to your landscaping job after that without giving any indication of what had just happened and blowing it. The press conference also got pushed back half an hour at the last minute, and the two different Four Seasons are a 30-minute drive apart. It seems likely they didn't realize they'd booked the wrong one until they were there. I thought the hotel was publicly denying that they were hosting the press conference hours before it happened, which doesn't contradict your point but adds to the craziness. That was the most random hour or so ever after Giuliani announced the conference and the hotel bizarrely denied that they were hosting it. Exactly. Because this was after the presidential race was called, and this was the Trump team's speech to the masses to assure them that Trump didn't really lose lol. This was where they made their stand. Close? But reality was even better. The race was called as Giuliani was speaking at Four Seasons Total Landscaping. Lionel Hutz. Now don't you worry, Mrs. Simpson, we've drawn Judge Snyder. Marge, is that bad? Lionel Hutz. Well, he's had it in for me ever since I kinda ran over his dog. Marge, you did? Lionel Hutz. Well, replace the word kinda with the word repeatedly, and the word dog with son. A few years ago some friends and I went to the beach together. As we were packing up, one of the guys crouched down and exposed a considerable quantity of butt crack. His girlfriend, fiancée, was kneeling right behind him with a handful of sand. She saw his exposed crack, looked down at the handful of sand, looked up at me, back to the sand, back to the crack, and then just casually slid it down his pants. He didn't react. So, she grabbed another handful of sand and slid that in as well. Still no reaction. Got about 5 handfuls of sand in there before he finally noticed. It may not be that funny to read, but just watching the casual mental cogs clicking into place of, I'm gonna put this sand in his butt kills me every time I think about it. Friends have kids all preschool and I love watching them play and run around. They hurt themselves in such minor ways all the goddamn time and just bounce. But you get this amazing facial expression where the super surprised thought process you're talking about happens in the microsecond after they hit something hard. Okay, what just happened? I was running, now I'm stopped. I appear to be laying face first on the floor. Also my face hurts. Maybe there's a link. Hang on, let me just think about this. Oh, right, this is pain. I remember this. Oh, I don't like this. You ever seen this? No matter how many times I watch it and how shit I'm feeling, it never fails to get a laugh out of me. The fact that the editorial team could have easily cut it out before it went on screen. but chose not to. I like to think they were all absolutely howling and said "nah fuck, keep it in there." That's comedic gold. This movie was on TV when I was about 6 years old, and I laughed so hard as that part in the movie that I peed all over our blue armchair. My family never let me live it down, so now that part of the movie always reminds me of how I literally pissed myself laughing, and I have to smile cause it's a funny memory and a funny movie. I know that a lot of people want to catch 'em all, but my job is a much bigger challenge. It is my goal to masturbate to all 898 Pokemon, plain and simple. I usually try to do it twice a day, regardless of the difficulties. At the end, I always win. I go on places like DeviantArt, Rule 34 and, occasionally E621 in order to achieve this massive goal, and when I finally do, I will become a Pokemon master. Sometimes, it is easy. I can come in 5 minutes looking at Gardevoir or Lopunny pornos. Sometimes I come across major challenges that I have to overcome. In the case of Garbodor and Magikarp especially, I have to imagine the wet, sloppy fish mouth sucking on my cock without thinking about the actual fish itself. It is very hard, but the satisfaction you get when you achieve victory is immense. Not only do you get the generally pleasurable feeling from ejaculation, but you also know that you overcame an obstacle few men have dared to try. I have a total of 347 successful ejaculations total, but it only gets harder as I move on. When I see a superior, for instance, I have to think to myself, in what way can I imagine this creature in order to get off to it? It is a puzzle for sure, considering I do not have a thing for most of these creatures, making it extremely entertaining and interesting for others to watch. I try to focus in on its somewhat beautiful face, and think about that more than the yards of snake behind it. I sometimes have issues with Pokemon like Macam, who appear extremely male, but I always find a way. There has been no hurdle too steep for me. I want to be the very best. Anything lower does not cut it, and that is why I am beating off to pictures of Lucario on the internet. Mom. I know that it may be too soon, but now that Alex Trebek passed, that means he, Sean Connery, and Burt Reynolds are all dead. I would love for SNL to do a Celebrity Jeopardy in hell where Trebek is damned for eternity to continue Celebrity Jeopardy, and constantly needs to deal with Sean Connery and Burt Reynolds' turd Ferguson. Maybe even throw in a historical figure like Hitler or Satan himself for the third. When people think they're going to pop out and scare someone, but that someone's reaction is to punch, I can't even. It's too good and funny. Also, when someone gets scared and their reaction is the exact opposite, like they scream long and weird and throw something half-heartedly. I was at Disneyland and my family separated for a while. I unexpectedly came up behind my mom, so I thought it would be funny to run by and grab her purse and keep running. She held on to the purse so hard and started just beating the shit out of me. I'm a lot taller than her, but she just wailed on me with one arm while I screamed, "Mom, mom, mom, it's me." Hardware stores are gold for this stuff. You walk past the stud finders and say to your partner or kids, "I can't go down there. I'll set them all off again." I have some stud adhesive from a renovation project. Can't throw the bucket of it out. When my wife's in the shed helping me move stuff, I ask her to hold it for me and then I pretend it's stuck to my hand. She's not divorced me so far, but hinges always makes me laugh. I'm laughing now and I've written it. Screws and fasteners aisle wouldn't go in there, looks a bit screwy. Nail aisle, I got the right ones, honey. I nailed it as usual. If you're a man who wants to go to the hardware store on their own for the rest of their life, these will do it for you. Tongue. I grew up with a very jokey dad and an even jokier granddad. I'm also from Sweden, which should really just change its name to Punland already. So even though I'm the wife, I take care of most of the dad jokes around the house. Did you ask me for some pickled fish? I'm sorry. I'm a bit hard of hearing, My husband is Irish and he shakes his head deeply and says, "You're such a child," and then laughs at his own farts, so I guess we are both winners here. I was sitting on the bathroom floor while my boyfriend was showering once, just keeping him company. After he got out, he went to help me up and I ripped a huge fart while trying to stand and he laughed for like 10 minutes. Every time he helps me up now he says don't fart. I sometimes fart when I laugh. It makes my husband laugh and he acts like he's horrified. That makes me laugh and fart more, which makes him laugh more. It's so bad. This is one of the few memories I have of my grandmother before she went downhill from Alzheimer's. She was a very proper lady. We were visiting my aunt in the hospital, and she lets out the tiniest toot, so my aunt cracked a joke about it and we all laughed. The laughter triggered more tiny toots and more laughter until we were all in tears and my grandma just kept pooting away. Man, okay, so, I'm obese, gal, but I do try to lose weight. One of the things I do is go for walks because I can take my dog with me. Anyways, so, we're walking and I feel that familiar rumble in my tract signifying an incoming fart. I didn't stop walking to fart, and the result was a goddamn, stereotypical, cartoony musical fart. It was a big fart, one that lasted several seconds. The way my cheeks moved as I was walking changed the fart to have varying pitches that played in rhythm with my footsteps and a sound not unlike a tuba. I'm fucking serious, you guys. My own body trolled itself for being fat. I want to be angry, but instead I'm highly amused and disappointed that there's no way in hell I can prove it happened. Accidentally walking in on my dad, my uncle and my grandma smoking a joint of my grandma's medical marijuana as a teen. My grandma saying, "Are you in or are you out?" Mostly asking if I was going to keep this secret from my aunt, not knowing any of them smoked weed and saying yes because how often does that opportunity occur all at once? I take a couple hits and we go to dinner, hot dogs and macaroni. We all keep our cool, probably too silently eating our food, and I look over as I'm trying to suction off that inevitable first bite of bread bun from the roof of my mouth, and I lock eyes with my tiny little grandma doing the same thing, and the seal of silence broke and we laughed so hard, despite trying to hold back. My uncle and dad covered their plates as we burst out laughing, mouths full, my aunt in utter confusion and sudden realization all at once, just shaking her head while we tried to control ourselves to no end. Best memory ever, still makes me laugh. It's the small things in life, there's nothing bigger. Was waiting for the bus with a friend to go to a party back when I was a teen. Had a beer while waiting and OFC a police car drive by and then stop. We both quickly throw the beers in a trashy can while the police car turn and come towards us. The officer rolls down the window and we prepare to get warning or fined, but instead he asks us if we have seen a cow. Apparently there was a cow on the loose somewhere in the city. Granted, I am terrible at telling stories, but it was and still is funny 15-20 years later. Bravely bold Sir Robin rode forth from Camelot. He was not afraid to die. Oh brave Sir Robin, he was not at all afraid to be killed in nasty ways. Brave, 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 brave Sir Robin. He was not in the least bit scared to be mashed into a pulp, or to have his eyes gouged out, and his elbows broken, to have his kneecaps split and his body burned away, and his limbs all hacked and mangled. Brave Sir Robin. His head smashed and his heart cut out and his liver removed and his bowels unplugged and his nostrils raped and his bottom burned off and his penis. That's enough music for now, lads. There's dirty work afoot. Brave Sir Robin ran away. No, bravely ran away. I didn't. When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail and fled. I never. Yes, brave Sir Robin turned about and gallantly he chickened out. You're lying. Swiftly taking to his feet, he beat the very brave retreat. Bravest of the brave, Sir Robin. The original Dumb and Dumber. I watched it a ton with my dad and sister growing up as a kid, and it has a special place in my heart. It's one of those movies you can watch 100 times and find something new, usually funny, every time. Neither of us noticed the man peeing on the wall in one scene for years of watching it lol. While the 3 other movies I'm aware of in the franchise were pretty bad, even the original definitely being far from art, it will still always make me laugh cause I have so many memories of laughing at every scene already.